This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning everyone. Baruch haba, and we continue in Mishna Berura Hashavua. We're learning Hilchos Tzitzis, Siman Yud Aleph. We're at the end of Sif Yud, and I just want to clarify something from yesterday. We know that the shear of the hole has to be not less than mikeshar agoidel adat tzipayren, from the joint of the thumb to the nail, but it has to be more than 3 fingers. And there was a shaila in Sif Yud that there was a yesh oimrim that in the width of the beged there is no shear. There's no shear in the width of the beged, and some say the width of the beged is like the length. But it was unclear what is the width and what is the length. And I think just a simple clarification somebody pointed out after the shiur was this is talking about a talis gadol, not a talis katan. See, a talis katan, my difficulty was we wear the talis katan length to the length of a person. We put the length of the garment to the height of a person. So, but the Mishna Berura said the width of the garment is what a person wears to his height. So I was very confused by that. It's Pasha. The Mishna Berura is talking about the talis gadol. Okay, so the width is what you wear to your height. The length is what you wrap yourself in. Okay, so then it should be clearer. So now let's clarify. So this is the talis. We wear the length of the talis to the width of a person, right? You put it on the back of you and you wrap it around. So when there's an opinion that the width of the beged has no shear, and the width meaning from head to foot, and the width is basically from top to bottom, and the length is masha misa'atif bay, the derech yitavu ba'arech, ein lo shear. The Mishna Berura said, ein lo shear lamata. So in other words, in the width of the garment, there is an opinion that there's no minimum shear. So in other words, it would come out then that you could put the hole right near the bottom of the width, as long as it's the requisite shear from the end of the length. Lamaisa, we're careful to be makbid on both, but that's just defining what this means. In other words, accordingly, if the width is from top to bottom, if there's no shear in the width, you could put the hole right by the bottom. Which would then mean, by the talis katan, when we wear it this way, then the width would have to be on the sides. I mean, the opinion that there's no shear in the width, it would have to be on the side. Again, we don't hold that way, but whatever we're saying here for the talis gadol, it would be l'chayra, the exact opposite by the talis katan. Because the gadol, you wear length, the talis gadol you wear this way, the talis katan you wear this way. Okay, let's see Sif Yud Aleph. Im hagadil shekorin oiri liza hu rachav layato by hatzitzis. If the gedil, which is the oiri liza, is wide, do not put on a tzitzis. Vimhito by, and if you put it on, pasal. Why? The al kanfe v'gdehem ksiv. It says on the corners of your garment, v'zeh einoi nechshav meha beged. This is not considered part of the beged. Aval oilahu l'shir malay kesher gaidal. This would be added to the shear of from the joint to the nail. Ulaharchaka shalish etzba'is. And the distance of 3 fingers, kivan she'aneka v'toich beged, if the hole is within the beged. Now, what is this talking about? L'char, what this is talking about is that if at the end of the beged you have sort of tassels or part of the beged which is not warped and wefted, in other words, it's only it's only woven in one direction. So to speak, it's not actually part of. It's like the phrase of the end of the beged. In other words, if here's the beged, and let's say the end of the beged, chveis, you had, I don't know, it's okay, like this. The end of the beged was like this. It was sort of not completely woven in both directions. So long as the hole is in the beged, it would be good. You can't put the hole in this part of the beged, but if you put the hole in the beged proper, this part would count toward it being Malay Kesher Agadol away from the edge, and it would count toward the 3 fingers, that it can't be more than 3 fingers away from the edge. Okay. Says the Mishna Berura, Shekorin Uri Leza, Hainu Mashmnichin Ktsas Chute Shasi B'lay Erev Uvesoif Argim. That is, you leave some weft strings without the warp, and at the end you weave it. So it seems like you had these strings going in one direction, and then they'll be attached at the end. Not just hanging loose at the end, they'll be attached at the end. V'yesha kasu, some write, shezeu masha anu korin oisoi b'lshonenu krekas. This is what we call in our language the krekas. Ve'in chilik beinim hagdil hu ba'orach habeged or barachvai. It doesn't matter if the gedil is in the length or the width. Hu rachav. If the orliza is wide, don't put on tzitzis. What does that mean if it's wide? Shu yoisim aloi kesher goydal. If it's more than the joint to the nail. Well, if it's not more than that, if it's less than that, of course you can't put the tzitzis on it, because it's of course pasal. Demloi came belav hachi pasal kanal. Shalosh etzba'is, 3 fingers. Hainu shaloyarchik hanekev misfas hagedil vahala yoiser mishalosh etzba'is. Meaning, don't put the hole from the edge of this what we're calling gedil, from the end of this border of the garment, more than 3 fingers. So it's going to count toward the space that the hole is from the edge, but you still can't put the hole on that area. Says the Rama, Haga, v'toiv sheyimdoid shiur kesher goido beloy hagadil, via toich sholosh etzbois im hagadil. It is good to measure the shear. Okay, so right, we have 2 shiurim. We have a minimum shear, and that is the malay kesher agoidal. That is from the joint of the thumb to the nail. And we have a minimum. That's the minimum, and a maximum of 3 fingers. Now we just said that you shouldn't put the hole on the border, which is also called gedil. You shouldn't put the hole on this border. However, you could put it past the border, and the Mechaber says that it's oile l'shir malay kesher goydal ula harchaka shlosh bois. Comes Ramah. Yes, maybe b'diavad the border will count toward the shear of malay kesher goydal, but it's better not to have to come on to that border to have the shear of malay kesher goydal. It's better to have malay kesher goydal without it. However, it should still be within 3 fingers with the border. So in other words, we're going to be machmer on both ends. We're going to say regarding the minimum shear, you should have the minimum shear without that border, but regarding the maximum shear, it should be within the maximum shear with the border. Says Mishna Berura b'lay agdil, v'im agdil rachav shtei etzbos shalosh. Now the problem is, what if the gedil is 2 or 3 fingers wide? So there's no way you could have malay kesher agoidal from the edge and still it be within 3 fingers total. So you're going to have to trim it yachtach mitzasai. V'adinim chute hashsi bolten b'lay erev, oya erev b'lay shsi. Likewise, let's say you just have warp or weft strings sticking out of the edge of the garment. There's a question whether it's going to count toward these shiurim. Better to trim it at the corner. Therefore, svas hatala shalanu, the edge of our garment, shekarin shlak. You thought a shlak is only on a sukkah, Apparently, tzitzis also have a shlak. The edge of our talis that we called shiliak, not to be confused with celiac, shiliak, she'ein boi chutin arugin mishsiva erev, yachdoich oisam katem kaidem hatalas hatzitzis b'makam hakanafais. Before you put on the tzitzis in the place of the corners. Okay, so the bottom line is that we have a minimum share of Mulay Kesher Goydel Adat Sipar, and that was Siftes. We have a maximum share of 3 fingers, that is also Siftes. But in Sif Yud Aleph, we're learning that the edge of the border will contribute toward these shiurim, but just don't put the hole there. However, the Ramah's opinion is that it l'chadchila should not be contributing to the Kesher Gudal, and therefore you're really in very, very limited territory, because if you put the hole more than Kesher Goydal after the border, very likely it's going to be beyond 3 fingers. So it's better to trim off any of these edges. By the way, if you look in the bottom, the 2 bottom bir halachas lo yatil boy, the bir halacha says v'talisim sheyesh b'sfas habeged orog ke'ein tcheles v'chutim kfulim ein zeh safa ela beged mamishu. A talis that has on the edge some kind of woven thing like tcheles. I guess what we have, the tassels. Sometimes on the beged they have these tassels. This is not considered a border. This is really part of the beged. The Toiv Sheyimdoid, he quotes the Malbim Kasbar Says Chaim in the name of the Chida and other Achronim, that our talisim that they have goven mabi basafa moididin min haknaf shalosh etzbois uvechlal zeh hagoven mabi. I don't know exactly what this goven mabi is, but any kind of decorative thing will contribute to the shear of 3 etzbois. It will still have to be, the tzitzis still should be within 3 etzbois, including the decorative item. Okay, we'll continue Bez Hashem tomorrow in Sif Yud Beis. Wishing everyone a wonderful day. Kol Tov.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.